Yeah. Revived.
Well, I thought the planning commission had got everybody.
Welcome to the Tuesday, October 6, 2015 meeting of the Hot Springs Board of Directors. Tonight, our invocation will be led by Dr. Eric Capaci, to be followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Would you please stand with me?
Thank you for letting me pray today. I really appreciate it. Let's bow for prayer. Father, we thank you for the great city of Hot Springs, Arkansas. And God, I'm thankful that when you allowed me to be born into this world, that you chose for this great city to be my home. And I'm so thankful that I have been able to raise my family here. Lord, I love you for that, God. I just think there's something special about this national park. And God, I pray especially tonight that you would grant wisdom to our leaders, to those that are making decisions, Father. Thank you for what you did this morning in that great leadership prayer breakfast. Lord, nearly 1,000 people came together in our city to pray and to acknowledge you, God, as our supreme being. And so, Father, I ask you to give guidance, direction, humility, and may at the end of this meeting, may those that have come leave and know that, Father, you were in charge and you gave, God, the wisdom and the unity to make the right decisions for our future. I love you, Jesus, and I love these people, and pray, God, for direction. And thank you, God, for allowing us to be here tonight. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'm going to go a little bit off right here and ask Dr. Capaci to come right back up to the microphone real fast. I'm going to consider you a guest. Tell us what's happening with Champion College. It's a brand new college in our community, and it's for everybody. And you want to just give us a real short
I give
what
you just
happened?
a brief, sure.
Yeah.
Well, we recently reorganized and had a name change from Champion Baptist College to Champion Christian College, and have really included the entire city. We've got a great board that God's put together for us that is allowing us now to not just attract, one denomination and one degree plan, but a variety of degree plans. And accreditation is well on its way. And so we've recently partnered with Central Baptist College in Conway, and they're offering accredited classes on our campus. And in November, we'll start offering evening classes for degree completion programs. And so that partnership is going to expedite our accreditation. We'll still continue our relationship with Central, but we'll be able to offer accredited classes and hopefully complement the other education programs in our city. So we're grateful.
And that's awesome. So let's give them a hand for a new college. And we'll have you back later to keep us updated on, all that enrollment and everything. Okay, I hereby call this meeting to order. Would you please call the roll?
Yes. Davidson.
Here.
Jones.
Here.
Clark.
Here.
Williams.
Here.
Ramick.
Yep.
Foley.
Here.
Carney.
Here. Okay, the first item of business on tonight's agenda is the approval of the agenda. Are there any corrections, additions, deletions, or modifications to the agenda, including items, if any, to be removed from the consent agenda? Okay, hearing none, may I have a motion to approve the agenda as presented?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, please indicate by saying no. Okay, the motion is adopted. The next item of business is to consider the approval of the minutes for the board meeting, the regular meeting held on September the 15th, and the special meeting held on September the 9th. Are there any corrections, additions, deletions, or modifications to the minutes? Okay, hearing none, may I have a motion to approve the minutes?
Madam Mayor, I would make the motion to approve the minutes.
And a second. All in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, please say no. The motion is adopted. In an effort to afford everyone an equal and orderly opportunity to address the items on tonight's agenda, I want to remind our citizens and our guests that we adhere to a 3-minute limit on your comments. And for your convenience, we will display the clock timer. And out of respect for all of us, we ask that you please honor this request. While members of the board may have questions of the speakers, I ask that any general comments of the board members be reserved for the discussion following the speakers. As a reminder, we want to ask each one that comes to address the board to please speak into the microphone so that everything can be heard, and it can be the people at home sometimes don't hear us if we're not right in front of the microphones. We had some calls last time about we could not hear what was being said. So please speak directly into the microphone so that you can be heard by the television audience. We also ask that all cell phones be silenced during the meeting, and please refrain from any disruptions, speaking out, or anything. Should you need to leave prior to the conclusion of the meeting, we ask that you do so quietly. If your item has been taken care of and you need to go, please do so without talking with your neighbors. And we appreciate so much your presence and your interest in the business of your city. At this time, we have guests to be recognized. I didn't see Kaylee. Is she? Oh, there you are. Would you please come up? And I will read the proclamation and present it to you, and then you tell the people what's going on, okay? Whereas the health and well-being of our citizens is the primary concern of the City of Hot Springs, whereas promoting safer, healthier diets is a critical factor in improving citizens' overall health, and whereas supporting substantial family farms and local agriculture benefits the local economy, and whereas obtaining fair pay and safe conditions for food and farm workers is beneficial for both the producer and consumer so that the food we produce and consume is safe and fair for all, and whereas expanding access to food and reducing hunger is of critical importance to aid those who live in food deserts, and whereas reforming factory farms to protect the environment and farm animals is necessary to sustain future generations. Now, therefore, I, Ruth Carney, Mayor of the City of Hot Springs, on behalf of the Board of Directors, do hereby proclaim October 24th, 2015 as Food Day in Hot Springs, Arkansas. In witness whereof, I have hereto set my hand and caused the seal of the city to be affixed on this 20th day of October in the year of our Lord 2015. Ruth Carney, Mayor.
Thank you.
This is Kylie. Malcolmus, and would you tell us what you do? Okay. No, if there's anybody taking pictures tonight. No, you don't have anybody with you? No.
Bill
I have
got
a
his
cell
phone.
Someone wants to kindly take a picture. Somebody
Bill.
take a picture.
I'll just speak really quickly about this. First of all, thank you very much for recognizing Food Day. This has come as a result of, many of you are familiar with Levi Hospital's Community Health Needs Assessment from 2013. We identified obesity as one of the critical issues in Garland County. And so we discovered Food Day along the way as a way to just promote healthy, affordable, and local eating for people in the community. And so we've been celebrating Food Day since last year. We're celebrating all throughout the month of October. So everyone's encouraged to please visit Levi Hospital's website and visit the blog to look at our calendar for Food Day events going on all October long, just to educate residents in the community about eating healthy.
And tell them about the farmers market and the little gift that you have.
Oh, yes. On October 24th, we'll be hosting our second annual Food Day Bash. That's going to take place at the farmers market. All month long, we're hosting a scavenger hunt. So each Saturday, you can go to the farmers market and you can pick up a scavenger hunt clue. And on the 24th, you should have the final clue and you should be able to figure out where we've hidden a certificate around town someplace that's going to entitle you to our grand prize Food Day basket, which is worth over $300. We've got a crock pot. We've got things donated from all over town, including some gardening supplies. And you're actually able to use the grand prize basket, which is a container to garden directly in. And we've got a gift card for Lowe's for some soil to put in that. And the library is hopefully going to donate some seeds for us to put in that. So you're going to be able to use that to grow your own fresh, healthy food.
That sounds awesome. Thank you.
Yes.
Let's give her a hand. Sounds like a fun thing to do. Scavenger hunt. We didn't have anybody else down for guests. Was that the only? Okay. I would consider all of you guests tonight, and thank you for being here. We will now hear our city manager's report.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the board. We hope that you can all attend Thursday's unveiling of the downtown redevelopment plan. That'll take place this Thursday, 6 o'clock, at the top of the Exchange Street parking plaza. We invite all of Hot Springs citizens, everyone who participated in the downtown public input sessions, downtown property owners, employees, anyone and everyone that has an interest in the future of downtown to please come to that event. Here are the details of the new plan. There's free parking on the lower floors. Again, this is going to be held at the top of the Exchange Street parking plaza. A couple other dates, Mayor. October 15th, Civic Ready will replace Code Red as the city's emergency communications provider. Please encourage anyone in your family, friends, co-workers to register by that deadline. Even if you're currently signed up for the current Code Red, you will need to go in and sign up for Civic Ready. It's very easy to do. You can go into the city's website at cityhs.net or call 651-7733 to register. Again, that's 651-7733 to register.
And while you're right there, pause. And we have a paper you can fill out if you don't have internet and do all that stuff.
Certainly.
So just ask at the office here. We'll provide sheets of paper.
Be glad to help you with that registration.
I got it.
October the 10th, Household Hazardous Waste Day will take place at the Garland County Fairgrounds from 8 a.m. to 1 p.m. Don't miss this opportunity for free disposal of those household hazardous waste. Used to get a lot of questions on what is a household hazardous waste, and the easiest answer is usually anything you find under the kitchen sink or maybe in a garage as you're cleaning out some of those type chemicals. So free collection, October 10th, Fairgrounds, household hazardous waste. Finally, Mayor, last week I was able to go on a DC fly-in with Ouachita River Valley Association. Again, it was an opportunity to work on our water supply issues from both Lake Ouachita and DeGray Lake. We had some very good meetings with the Arkansas and Louisiana delegates. We were able to meet with both Senators Cotton and Bozeman, as well as Congressman Westerman, working on those supply issues. It was very good timing. While we were there, the Mississippi River Flood Control Association was having their conference in Washington, and the good thing about that is it brought a lot of our Vicksburg district, both the district and the division, to Washington, meeting with some of the same delegates. And as I came out of Congressman Westerman's office, General Ware was coming in, so we were able to go in and kind of give our pitch on our water supply needs, and I'm sure that was going to be a topic in his next meeting, as well as with Senator Bozeman's office. We were able to meet with him at 3, and I think our Vicksburg Corps was coming in at 4. In addition, we had meetings with the Corps of Engineers. We had their top civil employees with the Corps' headquarters, the chief of the planning divisions, as well as chief of the operations, and we were able to again express our position both on Lake Ouachita, which we are hoping that continues the process and stays within the time frames of the reallocation study. We think first quarter of 2016 that study will be back and hopefully can start working on some agreements towards mid-2016 on Ouachita. We continue to hold the same position on DeGray Lake. We believe we already have an agreement there, signed in 1988. We were able to provide information to all of those that we met with regarding that particular agreement for water supply on DeGray Lake. So all in all, it was a very good meeting. We had great support from our partners with the Ouachita River Valley Association. We were able to express the positions of the Mid-Arkansas Water Alliance as well as Central Arkansas Water. So again, it was another step forward in our quest to secure water supply from both of those lakes. So that's my report on that, Mayor.
You've been busy.
It was a very good meeting.
Yeah, great. Okay. Now we have director's announcements concerning upcoming events. Do we have any? Yes, ma'am.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. The chili and cornbread contest at Summerfest will be this Saturday, October 10th. You're encouraged to bring your prize-winning chili or cornbread to Steve, and it'll be judged on. Tastings start at 11 a.m. There will be entertainment, food, and an art area for children where they can take home their work when finished, and lots of family fun. And the Park Avenue Community Association will be Monday, October 19th, at the Tower of Strength Church at 316 Park Avenue, beginning at 6 p.m. Thank you.
Anyone else? You do?
Just a reminder, Documentary Film Festival starts this week.
This week. Okay, that's fast. Okay. And also, the high school Lakeside Stadium on 10, 14, 15 from 5:30 to 8. It's See You at the Pole, and they're expecting 3,000. I think they've had about 3,000 every year or more. And it's free pizza and drinks for our young people from 5:30. And then Micah May is a really neat young man that's in charge of this, and it happens every year. So please, if you have teenagers in your family, be sure that they get over there that night, 10, 14, 15 at 5:30. Okay. Anybody else? Okay. The next item of business is to consider the consent agenda. Items in this section are of a routine nature and will be considered as one item of business without discussion. I will now entertain a motion to adopt the consent agenda. Yes.
I move for adoption of the consent agenda.
Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Would you please call the roll?
Yes. Jones.
Aye.
Clark.
Aye.
Williams.
Aye.
Ramick.
Aye.
Foley.
Aye.
Davidson.
Aye.
Carney.
Aye.
It's adopted.
It is adopted. The next item of business is to consider ordinance number 01536. First of all, I will entertain a motion to suspend the rules and read by title only.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to suspend the rules. All in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, please indicate by saying no. Okay, council, would you please read the ordinance by title?
Ordinance 01536, an ordinance vacating certain street right-of-way located along Romer Alley and for other purposes. That concludes your reading, Mayor. If you now entertain a motion second to adopt and have discussion, if any.
Okay.
So moved.
Do we have a motion and a second?
And second.
Okay, and discussion. Who's handling that one?
I'll do that one, Mayor.
Okay.
Thank you. Just kind of a little background for this particular item for the board and everyone else. The applicant on this street vacation is Miss Linda Palmer, and she did fill out a street vacation application with the city clerk's office on July 23rd. So you've had some previous board actions that set the public hearing, which was actually set for September 15th. You set the public hearing. You also had the ordinance to vacate. At that meeting, you heard from the public during the public hearing portion, and that to table that up until this meeting. So that's why this item is old business. The public hearing portion has been dispatched, and we do have some additional drawings that I believe that Mr. Aaron Burrows, who is the applicant's engineer, will probably be able to speak to. But the drawings themselves, we've vetted this particular vacation request. It's a partial vacation. It's not the entire section of Romer Alley, which is obviously a larger portion of the alley that is directly located behind Ms. Palmer's residence, and I believe their art gallery on the first floor as well. However, upon reviewing it from staff perspective and the various city franchisees, Centerpoint, Entergy, Cable, etc., none had issues with this particular vacation because it is a relatively small portion, approximately, I believe it's 178 square feet, and I think Aaron can speak to that more fully, but I believe we've kind of went over this item several times, so I'll just kind of keep it relatively brief on that end.
Okay. And we have several people signed up. Sherry Jorgensen.
I would like to say that when Linda moved here in the early 90s, about 90, 91, she has been one of our outstanding citizens here for the downtown area. She has worked tirelessly with the business and development down there. She has her gallery building as well as her residence and a studio there. She's a big part of our arts community. She is one of our wonderful regional artists from here who has not only a documentary film but is getting ready to publish a major book. She has put us on the map as an artist. She has worked tirelessly, and she could use this little bit of space. When she first renovated this building, she was told she had that little bit of space and could certainly park there, as it did not interfere with people using the alleyway. I have driven the alleyway myself many times. I can see no other doors along that corridor there that open directly onto that alley. I understand there may be one down on another lower level where they could use stairways or something to get up there, but there is no other door that's really there. So she just wants to be able to park on her space that's there and be able to enter into her private residence. It's her full-time residence. And otherwise, she has 3 full flights of stairs and has to come off of Central Avenue, where she does not have a parking space. And so this is really her home, her business. She has contributed to tourism here, worked tirelessly. She's been on many committees and has kept her gallery open and worked with the other artists in town and galleries to make Hot Springs a better place. We should be very proud of her, and I think she should be granted this small favor that she was promised in the beginning with her building. Yes, you may park there. She's done this for 20-something years, and now we wish to take this away from her? I don't understand. Thank you.
Thank you. Willie Gilbert.
Mayor, directors, and city officials, I am Willie Gilbert.
Pardon?
Address. And speak into the microphone.
Address.
Where does he live? Address. Oh. Would you please pull the mic up a little bit taller and then tell us your address? It goes on the record.
I'm Willie Gilbert. I live at 111 Prospect, number 60, and I am the president of the Property Owners Association at the condos at Courtyard Condominium. My wife and I own our unit number 60. We bought that piece of ground so that we could have parking, mainly because we have the American Art Gallery downtown on Central Avenue, and we can walk from there down to our business. And we were saving at that time usually over $50 a month to be able to park there. And we have really enjoyed our time being there. Just a brief background, we opened the gallery in 1993, and we're looking at about 22 and a half years there on Central Avenue. And we have come to the point to where we have become a small knit community, and we love it, and we have our neighbors that we share things with, and that's why you'll find quite a number that are here tonight to speak on this matter. And I have considered this in that we had come to have a business that mainly was operated out of the front door, which was okay with us. We didn't have any transaction out the back door, but we do have a back door, and it's there mainly just to use in certain times, but mainly we never use our back door.
Okay.
I have asked members, and many are present here tonight, that would be voicing their opinion. I know that many emails have been sent to the directors and the mayor for about our concerns. And my thought on this is that if we make this an open alley with parking, it's no longer going to be a fire lane. We would think that anyone could park and not get, it's been a while, but you get a $50 ticket for parking back there, where it's $10 out front on Central. It's quite a difference. And the reason that it was $50 fine is because it was a fire lane.
It didn't ding. I'm sorry. Our little bell didn't ring. I'm sorry. Time's up. So
My time is up.
Yes, thank
okay.
you.
I will relent then. Thank you.
No, it doesn't work. Oh, okay. First, okay. Yeah. All right. Okay. You may bring up Mr. Burrows. You want to come up and explain right off the bat what we're talking about? I'm sorry. We should probably had you right after Lance.
My name is Aaron Burrows, AB Engineering. I live at 110 Hunter Cove Court, Hot Springs, Arkansas. I'm the engineer that Linda Palmer hired to draw up the proposal for the right-of-way abandonment, to prepare the surveys. So I don't do the surveys, but I had a surveyor, licensed surveyor, provide the documentation that the city needed for the abandonment. The original beginning of the project was because Linda had a wooden deck behind her building that was in the right-of-way. A car drove through that right-of-way, put a hole through her deck, and she wanted to repair the deck. The goal was to improve the deck and extend that concrete slab over that wood deck so that she could pull her car up further and further clear the alleyway. So I did her design for a concrete supported slab. Worked with Denny McFay with the Public Works Department, and he said, well, if you're going to build this, then we really need, if she's going to spend the money on it, then we need to abandon the right-of-way. So thus began the abandonment process. She's been parking her car back there all along. You can park in a right-of-way. You can have driveways through right-of-ways. But if she was going to make these kind of substantial improvements to the property, then the city recommended that right-of-way be abandoned so she could make those improvements and then own that parking space. We drew those documents up. The whole city staff reviewed those documents. If you're looking at the picture on the screen, the white line was our original area that we were proposed for abandonment. After review, the city staff recommended that we narrow the north end of the area so that the clearance would not be any less than what currently exists between the back of courtyard condominiums and the guardrail. There's actually a telephone pole that sticks in about 1.5 feet further, which that's what the white line went to the telephone pole, which is the narrowest point on the alleyway. We pulled it back 1.5 feet to the pink line, and that's the area that we're currently proposing for the right-of-way abandonment so that she can make those improvements and park her car and clear the right-of-way. Fire departments looked at it. That's not a fire lane. They would not put their vehicle in harm's way by putting it on that road. It's too narrow. Any vehicle that needs to go down that road that can get down it now will continue to be able to get down it. The only reason that space is available is Ms. Palmer created that space by building a retaining wall and filled in and extended the parking area behind her unit so that she could park there. Otherwise, it would fall off like the area further to the north and on the east side of Romer Alley.
So underneath that, is what we see here as concrete? Did she put the concrete in there?
The concrete wall along the south and the east side is the top of a about 11-foot tall retaining wall, concrete retaining wall. Mm-hmm. The hillside was deteriorating and sloughing off behind her building. So in order to protect her second floor which is below that. I believe the street level is actually at her level of her third floor, which is actually her apartment, her living area.
And so the pavement, that's what I was talking about. Did she have that paved over that, or was that already paved?
I don't know who paved that, whether that was the city that paved that or she paved that.
But you have supports under it so that it won't fall down 3
there's
stories?
the retaining wall on the south and the east side support the fill dirt that the asphalt pavement's on. And then there's a wood deck further to the south that it's about 6 foot wide, 12 foot wide wood deck that's also in the right-of-way. And that was the area that initially began the whole process to put a concrete structurally supported slab to replace that wood deck so that she could pull her car up onto it.
Mayor, if I could just clarify your question. There is construction work to be done that you are waiting on to get approval of this vacation in order to go forward with. Is that right?
When we originally applied, did the design, she paid for the design, and we submitted for a building permit. And that's when we decided that, or the city recommended that instead of issuing a building permit, that we really need to do it the right way, we needed to do a right-of-way abandonment. And then she could make the financial cost that she's going to invest into that structure supported slab. And that whole pink area will become a concrete slab where she can park her car on too. So also to get it to drain toward that area drain that exists to the north.
Okay.
Question.
Yes, sir.
Where's her actual property line? Does it extend anywhere into this area you're asking to vacate?
Her parking line is about the edge of the concrete retaining wall to the east side, is pretty close to her property line.
But part of this area is on her property now, correct?
The wood deck on the east is in her property. It is on her property. The asphalt to the west is in the right-of-way of Romer Alley.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Do anyone else have a question of Aaron? Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Mayor.
Then we have next Ann Gilbert.
Mayor, City Board of Directors, and city officials, my name is Ann Gilbert. As a property owner at 111 Prospect and a business owner at 724 Central, I'm against the current proposal to vacate a portion of Romer Alley. Romer Alley is currently designated by the signage as a fire lane. By the signs that are currently posted by the city, that's what it says, fire lane. I have room behind my building to have the walkway and the stairs that are currently there removed. I could have parking, probably the space for 2 cars back there. But since the statement was made that it's not a good idea to have cars and trucks parked back there, but it would be okay for her to have a car, Miss Palmer, to park in the rear of the property in Romer Alley and give the property where she parks to her. If the city wants to compensate Ms. Palmer for the work that she's done on her retaining wall, paying for the work that she has already done, I don't have a problem with paying her. But giving her the space in the alley, which will change Romer Alley and the way things are right now forever, that's a different proposal to me. Please consider what's fair to all of us, those that are on both sides of the alley, the condominiums and the businesses on Central. And yes, all those businesses do have back doors. Thank you.
Can I ask a question, or should I wait? Linda Palmer.
All of you for your consideration.
Would you pull the microphone down to you and tell us your address?
Okay. Is that okay?
Yes, that's good.
I did buy my building in 1991, right after the flood, and restored it. And at the time, I did see that the mountain was deteriorating behind my building, and there had been some problems with landslides. So with the city's blessing, I did go ahead and build the retainer wall behind, and was given only a verbal. They just said, that is a parking space and you can park there. So that has been in effect since 1992, and it is outside the alleyway. It is not inside the alley, and I think that's a primary reason. And I'm sorry, I don't understand what the objection is for it to be parked outside the alley. And as far as the other buildings, and I would be very much in favor of anyone doing the same thing if there was room behind their building to construct a wall and fill in and be out of the alley. I think that would be great. I would be for it. I do live there. It's not an extra space for me. It is the entrance to my home. And I just would appreciate your concern and passing this ordinance. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we have Donald Cheney.
Mayor, would you please remind the speakers that they need to give us their address, please?
Yes. Most of them are written here, so.
800 Central Avenue.
Thank you.
Hello, Mayor and Board. I'm Donald B. Cheney. Now, I'm a handicapped person, and I've heard so much about this. I brought even the newspaper article that shows one of my concerns.
Where does he live?
111 Prospect Avenue,
thank
Unit
you.
42.
Okay.
And it's in the Courtyard Condominiums, which is on the other side of Romer Alley. So we know where and I have driven up this, and I've looked at that little wooden piece. If she had that, she could park her one vehicle in there and not be in the alley. Now, I've gone up there several times since I found this in the Sunday newspaper on the 20th of September. And I've looked at it, and the SUV that she's got right now, she parks over the line about this far because she's angling it in. If her place was longer, she could parallel and her car would fit there. But this statement in here about her going to get two little cars and park them there, she better get the baby ones. Anyway, one of the things is I read this article. It was very interesting in the paper, and it says the District 1 director, Suzanne Davison, said she didn't hear anything from anybody, and allowing her to park there, she would have access to her apartment just like condo owners have in parking their cars in front of their condos. Well, apparently she's never been in our condo because I am lucky. I park by the steps. I've only got to go up 13 steps to get my front door. But the people above me, their parking place is a half a block down the hill. Now, in the Courtyard condominiums, that hill goes up from Central 5 floors. And so they're parked halfway down that incline. They got to get their groceries out and go half a block and then climb 2 flights of stairs to get to their place. So this thing about parking at the front door, we picked our places in the condominium. We agreed to them, and that's, but the thing was to have somebody looking at it that didn't even know the property so that the people who are going to make the final decision don't really know everything. That's the reason I'm here, just to broaden everybody's knowledge a little bit. And I thank you for letting me speak my piece.
Can I ask you one question?
Yes, ma'am.
Is there anybody that lives up there that would like to park in her parking place?
Not in her parking place, no. And like I said, I've been up there and I've checked it and everything. And reading the thing in the paper was very hard to discover exactly what she wanted. But that little wooden place there, if she concretes that in, then she can take her SUV and she can park where she's not in the alleyway. Right. And that part where she will be parked is not a part of the drivable part of the alley. But without that little thing, she can't do it like she's doing right now. It's not fitting. So, but we need to get everything out. Then I've heard all the talk from the condominium people that they asked the city if they could park their second cars and their RVs. Well, I wouldn't want to park anything in that alley of mine. But that's not the point. I just wanted you to listen a little bit and get
the whole
better
story.
overall idea of what the situations are. We are me, not we. I can't speak for the whole condominium. But one of the things is until the other people between her and Maxine's, they all have a door on the alleyway. Like somebody said, oh, no, it's not on the alleyway, it's down. Yeah, hers didn't have it until she fixed it. If they get permission, they can fix theirs too, and they will not be blocking the main alleyway. But we can't give it to just one and not allow the others. Now, probably somebody's going to say, you didn't speak enough about us parking other cars over there. I can't. That's the only. I was in the military for 20 years. We had to do a lot of decision making, and my 3 minutes is up. So thanks for listening.
Thank you, because I'm not looking up there.
Oh, if you see it flash,
you just got to
tap the gavel.
Tell me.
Oh, it's not working.
Yeah, I did.
They took off with my timer.
Yeah, but then I did ask him a question. Okay, we've got Stevie Spargo.
I think that everything that I was going to say has been said. Thank you.
Okay, and Vernon Milner.
Good evening. My name is Vernon Milner. I live at 201 6th Street, and I own some of the condominiums at the Courtyard Condominiums. I'm retired, and so sometime in the afternoon, I watch Judge Judy. And she's talking about when people come before the court, and in this case, that they should come with clean hands, no impediments to them when they come. And how this applies to this case is Mrs. Palmer is coming before you with an impediment that she shouldn't be there at all. She's been parking in the space all this time where it clearly states no parking. It's been saying fire lane, but our fire chief said that was not true. But still, that does not have anything to do with the fact that no parking. So, number one, that's wrong. Okay, so then this parking situation started when an unnamed person in the city government gave Mrs. Palmer permission to park in a no parking zone in Romer Alley. Now Mrs. Palmer wants more space and the right of way in the elbow of the Romer Alley to be given to her. This, by the way, is the narrowest point in that alley. But the main reason for the resistance to Mrs. Palmer parking in the elbow of Romer Alley is that this appears to many of us as an act of privilege. Having a little money and influence will apparently allow this to happen. This smacks of the old storied ways of governing in Hot Springs that I heard of when I was a young boy growing up in a farm in central Arkansas. You could get anything done in Hot Springs if you knew the right people and had a little money. Now that the fire marshal has declared the alley not to be a fire lane, but even if the parking is not a fire lane, it is still closed to parking for everyone except Mrs. Palmer. That is just not right. Residents of the Courtyard condominiums and other businesses backing up to Romer Alley pay a lot of taxes, and their wishes should therefore be considered carefully. But I want to read you what the dictionary says of squatting. Squatting is an action of occupying an abandoned or unoccupied area of land or a building, usually residential, that the squatter does not own, rent, or otherwise have lawful right to use. And that, I submit, is what Mrs. Palmer is doing. Thank you.
Okay. George Pritchett. You can do my timer on here so I can hear it.
Oh, we'll watch him.
George Pritchett, 207 Crestwood. Approximately 8 years ago, I worked in that building. I worked for Stevie Spargo when she had the real estate company, first as a friend and helping her in the gallery, then later as a realtor. That property, people were parking in that parking place 8 years ago, approximately when I started working there. I pulled a truck and a trailer through there on numerous occasions, loaded things out of the third floor of the building, which the real estate company was in. It did not create a problem. Obviously, if someone would have parked along the side as you go to the north, it would become more difficult. In fact, I did pass cars with a truck and a trailer that were parked there at that time, but I would not make that a recommendation. I have to go with the fire marshal. There's a lot of areas in Hot Springs. My condo that I lived in for a while, we painted all the curbs red at the fire marshal's urging because that's how we get people to stop parking there. So we do a lot of things in Hot Springs, and maybe we should or we shouldn't, but we're trying to clean them up. Linda just wants to clean this up. What's going on? She probably wouldn't have bought that building, people. She probably wouldn't have spent a few $100,000 to put a residence up there and her gallery, and have renovated that building and kept it up over the years. She certainly wouldn't have made it a residence. She did put the retaining wall up at her expense. I think that this parking space has been used for years, whether it was Linda Palmer or somebody else. This isn't a change from the past. It doesn't interfere with anybody. There's plenty of room to get by. Man, if I can, with half blind in one eye and can't see out the other, if I can drive a truck and a trailer through there and load them, I don't have any trouble. Nobody else should. Thank you.
Thank you, George. Keith Rhodes.
Yes, ma'am. I thank you for the time, and I know it's limited for obvious reasons, and I'll get right to the point. I'm relying on a document here.
Just a moment. Your name and address.
Oh, I'm sorry. You said Keith Rhodes. So I thought, my name is Keith Rhodes, 111 Prospect, number 8. I'm relying on a document that Mr. Burris submitted dated June 29th, 2015. Is that not the petition for the vacation of the alley?
I'd have to look at it. I can't.
I was relying on this because it says it's her agent. They were requesting the Hot Springs City to abandon a portion of the right-of-way in favor of the property owner. So I was taking this as the petition. Well, according to ACA 14-301-302B, there's supposed to be attached a photostatic copy of the plat as platted in the county clerk's office or circuit clerk's office. I have Exhibit B. It shows a survey that doesn't seem to have any plat attached to it as required. Also, the ordinance suffers from the same defect because there's nothing in there with the plat. It has a legal description, but there's no reference to the plat, no attachment of the plat, no reference to the plat as it's recorded in the book. Also, 14-301-301B says that that portion of the alley was not supposed to have been used for 5 years. You're going to tell me that's not been used for 5 years? Really? Come on. It's been used. I was up there using it myself, walked around, saw what was going on. To abandon the alley, you have to have it not be used for 5 years. That's not the case. And I know the board has to exercise its own judgment, but to echo some of the things that have been said earlier and to butcher Mr. Orwell, this seems to fall under the guise of all animals are equal, but some animals are more equal than others. And I would hope that y'all would consider what I have said in your voting. Thank you very much, Miss Mayor.
Thank you. Okay, we have, is that Cass? Yes. Linda Cass? I'm sorry. Okay. Joanne Kerslake? Okay. Kerslake. Would you say it for me?
Kerslake.
Kerslake, okay.
Yeah, I'm Joanne Kerslake. I live at 600 Packus. I also own some units at the Courtyard Condominiums. Thank you for your time and the privilege to speak. The last board meeting, it was mentioned that the residents of the Courtyard Condominiums had parking in front of their condos. Some yes, some it's not in front of. But that was included in the price that we paid for our condominium. They all had one parking place. It wasn't city property. We bought it. And that's been my only objection is Mrs. Palmer knew she didn't have a parking place at the back of her building when she bought it, but now
she thinks she should have it, and the city seems to agree that she should, but I just don't seem like the city should give property to anybody that has a monetary value to it. And that's really all I've got to say. Thanks again for your time.
Okay. Okay. Yes, you may. That's it. Please. Go ahead.
Mayor, just to reiterate, we have looked at this from a staff standpoint. The members of our Public Safety Committee have individually looked at this. And with that particular parking spot being in the alcove and with that turning radius not being affected by the new line, we find no adverse effect whatsoever from a car parked in the alcove. Certainly not an issue. We do not want the alley blocked. When it comes to the fire lane, there is a fire lane sign there as you go into Romer Alley. We can't find any record where that was ever officially called a fire lane. We believe that sign is a holdback from when we did not have a fire line, a main that ran up Romer Alley with a new fire plug. We put that in several years ago, and at that time, maybe we should have removed the fire lane sign. As you heard Chief Davis speak, he would not send a fire apparatus into that alley due to its narrow nature, and if it was in any of the other buildings to the east, he would not put them above the fire. So again, staff has not found any adverse conditions. Public safety members that have looked at that have not found an adverse condition. It's the board's pleasure on what they do with that, but I wanted to make sure that you know that the staff has done our due diligence in looking at that, and those were our findings.
Okay, let me ask this question. We have so many times downtown with the walls that crumble, and I think they did into some of the businesses, several years ago, the walls gave way. So if all of those property owners wanted to put in a retaining wall against that back wall, and if it gave that same amount of space, would it not be equally approvable if they put that much effort into securing a retaining wall themselves?
Well, Mayor, I can only answer that by stating that from a staff point of view, we look at each request as it comes in on its own merits. Mm-hmm. If somebody wants to go through the expense to build something like that, we would certainly look at that through all of our codes, through our planning department, through our engineering department. It would follow the same process of any others that we vet as we look at these requests.
I think it would be a great asset to our downtown area if private people would put the retaining walls in instead of having it be a tax dollar thing.
Can I address that?
Yes.
I've been up there twice this week and once walked it. If you look at Exhibit F of Mr. Burroughs' attachments, and according to what Chief Davis said, at the top of that exhibit, it says that the width of the alley is 13 feet 6 inches. And at the last meeting when we discussed this issue, Chief Davis said that same thing. But when you look at the backside of her building, you can see it's much wider to the backside of the Romer Courts condominium complex to her back door. So there is width. And if you walk above that little parking lot and by that fence, and then you walk behind what I think it was the Taylor Beloit Gallery and then the American Art Gallery and what used to be the Blue Moon Gallery, those back doors are just right there. So they don't have that depth to put a spot in, and there's no need to retain the wall. Now, if you go back to some of the other photographs, you can see on the one that had the 4 photos, let's see, the one that has that guardrail, and if you look at the asphalt, if you look at just below that guardrail, that is where that cement had to come in and be poured because that wall was crumbling into the parking lot, and that is about right behind the back wall. So that would affect those condominiums, not her building. And then I drove it, and it's wide enough for a car, but if anybody parked further north, there's not enough room for another vehicle to get by them. And there's certainly not enough room for, as Chief Davis said, it's too narrow for our fire equipment. It's much wider these days. That alley was probably built when the fire trucks were considerably narrower. As far to answer Mr. Cheney and Ms. Kersley at the last meeting when we discussed that, I asked the question if condominium owners could park in front of their buildings, and all I heard was the positive. So if I was wrong, I apologize. And just a correction, we are not abandoning the alley. We're only abandoning this little tiny piece of property to the east of the pink line. And if you look at that wood deck in photo number 3, and you see that dark spot just on the other side of the pink line, that's a hole where a big truck pulled up and its tire went right through it. So that needs to be secured. When I was there, you see that I had to contact Ms. Selman that afternoon after I'd looked at it, because you see that air conditioning unit that's just to the next of it. Well, that deck...
It's about ready to fall in.
It is. What's happened is, I think it's a catalpa tree, but I'm not sure, was pushing against that deck. It pushed against that support for that unit, and it had already popped the south side of that brace. So it was getting ready to topple on top of the other unit. So they got on that right away. Fix it. Thank you.
Yeah, it needs to be. And one other thing, too, I'm not sure when it was mentioned, but we vacate property all the time. For those of you who don't watch it and don't know, but total alleys get vacated, partial alleys get vacated, and that's just a common thing that happens here because of different reasons. So it's not unusual that we would vacate. That's a very small piece to vacate. Sometimes we vacate whole alleys. So I think we did last board meeting, maybe before.
Can I ask a question, Mayor?
Yes, sir.
This little area on the other side of the white line, is that still in the right-of-way, or is that Ms. Palmer's? Right.
You're talking about that guardrail?
Yeah, that's her building, that spot is. Because she put up that wall, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Well, I was just trying to get us some retainer walls all through downtown. I think it'd be a good idea.
Well, I wasn't questioning that.
We need retainer walls.
Yeah, I stepped back from that little hill the other day. Then we'll go sliding down.
And then the other option, I'll give this one out, is that city parking lot down there. So we could go up 2-3 levels on our parking lot, make it a parking garage, and have drive-in right on that level. So
they could all park.
Isn't that a good idea?
Everybody could park there.
Everybody could park there. Yeah. Okay.
Call for the question.
Call for the question, please.
I want to say something first.
Can't after we call for the question.
Okay.
Everybody has.
I just want to say something, okay?
Okay.
All right, it'll be brief. First of all, you may enjoy this. I'm fixing to eat a little humble pie. I think I owe Director Davidson an apology from our last meeting. I think I asked her a question that was over the top and out of bounds, and I hope the director will accept my apology.
Okay.
Yes, it's accepted.
Okay, and happy birthday, by the way.
Thank you.
And then, for those of you who live in the Romer Court condominiums, I apologize for not being familiar with the alleyway there, because I can't recall in the 40 years that I've lived in Hot Springs that I ever drove through there. So, but I have since driven, in fact, 3 times. And then to Ms. Palmer, I apologize to you for asking this to be tabled, causing you more weeks of anxiety about what this board was going to do. Now, having said all that, when I was county judge and we had road abandonments or vacations, those did not go to the quorum court. They went to me as judge of the county court. And in 90% of those cases, I went out and inspected the area to be vacated or abandoned for 2 reasons. One, I wanted to be clear in my mind what the petitioner was asking for. And secondly, would the petitioner's request cause an adverse impact to the neighbors and the surrounding area. I have applied that same principle to this case, and I see no reason why we shouldn't vacate this property.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, would you please call the roll?
Yes. Clark.
Aye.
Williams.
Aye.
Ramick.
Aye.
Foley.
Aye.
Davidson.
Aye.
Jones.
Aye.
Carney.
Aye. It is adopted. Okay. The next item of business is to consider resolution number R15-164. Council, would you please read the resolution by title?
Resolution R15-164, resolution awarding a contract to Hanson McLaughlin LLC for certain professional services related to the 2016 water line improvement project. That concludes your reading. Now I entertain a motion second to adopt and have discussion, if any.
Do I have a motion to adopt?
So move.
And is there a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. And who is the staff person for this? Mr. Carnahan, thank you.
Thank you. This is a proposal, a request for the city board to approve a contract with Hanson and McLaughlin Engineering to design the next phase of our water main replacements. The 2016 water line improvement project, the engineering contract is for $85,000. It is to design the next 14,000 feet, that's almost 3 miles, of water main replacements at 16 different locations around the city and the water system for another $1.2 million. And I might mention 2 or 3 things, if I may. First of all, let me mention that when this is completed, assuming you approve this, when we complete this construction in 2016, that will mean that the city board, since 2008, has approved, and will have built $10 million of water main replacements in a 9-year period, which is about 24 miles of old water mains that we have abandoned and replaced. And usually when we replace these, we're replacing a 2-inch main with a 6-inch main, and we're installing fire hydrants too. So we've installed a lot of fire hydrants in the water system as we have done these replacements. This is very important, and because we have done water leak studies, as you know, we do lose water in our leaky water pipes. It's a big problem, not just in Hot Springs, but nationwide. And so part of the motivation here is to reduce the leakage, the water that we're losing in our leaky water pipes. And some have said that if we would only remove those leaks, then we would not have to build a new water plant or get a new water supply for the city. But even though we've spent now $10 million doing that, and we want to continue, we'll have to continue to do that. Even in September, I just saw the water plant production records for September, and it was over 20 million gallons a day. And as you know, our plants can produce 25. So over 80% capacity of our plants were running even in September of this year, even after we've spent over $9 million already, and now we're going to spend another $1 million replacing leaky water pipes. So replacing leaky water pipes is part of the solution to our water supply, but it's not the only solution, and it doesn't mean that we don't need more of a water supply. As you know, we have a lot of growth in the city, a lot of commercial growth. I would like to take a moment to, Bill Burrows sent an article around. Let me just read you 2 or 3 quotes from here. This is the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency projects that it will cost $384 billion to replace the nation's tens of thousands of miles of replacement pipes. And another quote, there are more than 1 million miles of underground pipes in distributing waters to American homes that need to be replaced. Here's another quote. In the city of Philadelphia, last year they had over 900 water main breaks. 900. in the city of Philadelphia. And on the UCLA campus, that's where the UCLA Bruins basketball team, Coach Woot, they had a water main break that ruined their basketball court.
Oh, no.
Aww.
Washed out their basketball arena.
Pulling out all the stops, aren't you, Gary?
So I'm begging you to approve this.
That's scaring me.
But
Yeah,
I wanted you to
yeah.
know that we are working on replacing our leaky water mains, and thanks
Yeah.
to you, and we appreciate your continued support of this program.
Mr. Carnahan, you're scaring me to death. Does that affect what we drink?
Well, it could, but our fine water department is Johnny on the spot. In the middle of the night, they go in and turn off valves and isolate these leaking areas and replace them, rechlorinate it, and test it before they turn it back on. So, no,
Okay,
they're
we're
taking
all right.
good care of you.
Okay, I can still drink
But
the
it
water.
requires a lot of effort, and a lot of times when a water main chooses to break, I don't know why, but it always likes the weekends, the nights, and especially holidays.
Oh, my.
Cold.
Cold weather.
Cold weather. Exactly.
And my son went to UCLA basketball camp.
Oh, wow.
That was a different subject.
Great.
He knew that, Mayor. That's why he threw it in.
Thank you.
Basic.
Well done, Aaron.
Okay, if y'all have
Okay.
any questions,
All right,
I'm
any
here.
questions?
Otherwise, thank you.
Thank you.
Hearing no further, do you have discussion? Okay, hearing no further discussion, would you please call the roll?
Yes. Williams,
Aye.
Ramick,
Aye.
Foley,
Aye.
Davidson,
Aye.
Jones,
Aye.
Clark,
Aye.
Carney.
Aye. It is adopted. The next item of business is to consider resolution number R15-165. Council, would you please read the resolution by title?
Resolution R15-165, a resolution approving an appeal from Board of Adjustments and Appeals number 150126, 210 Kimmery Lane. That concludes your reading, Mayor. If you would entertain a motion second to adopt and have discussion, if any.
Do I have a motion to adopt? And a second?
Second.
Okay.
Mayor,
And this-
before Ms. Selman begins, would you please call for a Mr. and Mrs. Jeffrey Bratton or a Mr. Keith Billingsley?
Do we have these people present?
They are the
The
applicants
Brattons?
of the decision of the Board of Adjustments and Appeals. We have convened staff here in order to address their appeal. Mayor, if I could, I think I could sum this up shortly if Ms. Selman will indulge. Sometime in 2013, Mr. Bratton submitted a drawing, which would be in your packet at page 154. Pursuant to this drawing, he was awarded certain permits to construct a structure on property located at 210 Kimmery Drive. After 1 year, those permits expired. Mr. Scott, who is here ready to testify before the board, inspected the premises, noticed that it was built on top of a sewer main, and would not renew the permits. The permits had already expired. During the appeal process, Mr. Bratton, through his attorney, averred that Mr. Sean Davis inspected the property for Mr. Bratton and used green paint in which to mark out the footprint for his building. That allegation is contained in 110 of your packet. Mr. Davis is here to testify that his job is not to mark out footprints for buildings, but rather to mark sewer lines, which he did with green paint and showed that to Mr. Bratton. If you look at page 154, which is the drawing that was submitted by Mr. Bratton to Mr. Stouter, who is here to testify that that was in fact Mr. Bratton's drawing and his submittal. If you look at today's configuration, which is found on page 155 of your packet, you'll see that the location that it was approved on September the 11th of 2013 is in a light blue shade. The actual existence of the structure is in a peach orange shade. You'll see a lime green line that goes under the peach orange shaded structure. That's our sewer line. We had a sewer line that was dedicated in 1965 and was recorded with the Circuit Clerk's Office on July 14th, 1965 in volume 766, page 700. That's our easement, that's our line, he's on it, and he wants a permit to be able to continue his construction. If you vote yes, you are granting his appeal. If you vote no, you are not granting his appeal, It is staff's recommendation that you vote no and give some direction on what to do going forward.
Okay. Do you have any questions? Any discussion? Any questions?
What direction, assuming that we vote no, what direction do you then want the board to give to the staff?
Director Williams, we have a $6 million plus contract that has been let to do a pipe bursting method of expanding this line. The contractor is being staged and ready to go. Our problem, and I'll ask Larry or Gary to come up to give the technical explanation, but I think if I explain it, we'll all understand it better. We got a pipe. We got a pipe this size, and we need it to be bigger.
Yeah.
Instead of digging it up, we're going to put an apparatus through that pipe segment, and it bursts it and expands it.
Mm-hmm.
The problem is at a manhole box, the pipes are not always exactly lined up. So somebody has to physically get in that box to manipulate the apparatus to the next pipe segment.
Ooh.
And tell him where that is.
That's under his house. You can see the black dot in the northern edge of his structure.
How many feet under?
It's under the house, which is a concrete slab. It's also under 15 feet of fill that he brought down from the hill in order to flatten that out in order to build back in that section. So we have work to do. We can either spend $380,000 to go around him, and everyone who's a ratepayer for the city of Hot Springs, whether they live in the city or out of the city, pays for that. Or you can instruct me to take legal action to get this project finished.
So instructed.
I mean, we
Second the motion.
We essentially need to ask the court to tear down.
I just have one question. Has anybody heard from them why they're not here this evening?
I do not know why they're not here this
Lance?
evening.
Okay.
We didn't
No
receive
communication.
any notification from
They
them.
showed up at BAA and presented their case.
Okay.
So to get this on the table, somebody has to make a motion in the
Fir-
affirmative.
First, we
Wait,
have a
we have to do
first
this
we have a
first.
motion on the table to approve this resolution, which would grant the appeal. So if there's not any further discussion on
Wait,
that,
we need to be clear. If we
If
vote in the affirmative, we're letting them
Granting
have
the
their
appeal.
easement.
granting the appeal.
And if we vote in the negative, we are denying their
Also move we
petition.
grant the appeal with the understanding of how the voting.
We
that's
just-
that's already on the floor.
Yeah, that's
I
on
beg
the
your
floor.
pardon.
We
Somebody
just
put
need
it
a,
on the floor already?
we need no
That's the
further
resolution
discussion, and
that is
our
before you.
resolution is on the floor, and we need to vote yes or no
Okay.
on what's on the floor. And then we'll go to whatever our
Understand that.
attorney asks us to do.
Okay.
Okay, do I have a motion
So
You
moved.
got a
in a
motion,
second? I've already had it.
Yeah,
and,
you got it.
You want to call the roll?
Yes. Ramick?
No.
Folly?
No.
Davidson?
No.
Jones?
No.
Clark?
No.
Williams?
No.
Carney?
No, it is not
Fails.
adopted. Now,
Mayor, before we go to the next agenda item, I will contact Mr. Billingsley and speak with him about the board's action tonight and try to reach an amicable resolution to this. And with your permission, I'll deal with staff in doing so. If we're not able to do that, I need your direction to file suit.
I'd like to make a motion that we give you the latitude to act as you see best fit for the city's best interest.
okay. Do I have a second? We have a motion and a second.
Second.
We have, and all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, please say no. Okay, that is adopted. Okay.
Sorry, guys.
Good night.
Thanks for coming.
Tied up with a lot of good men and women.
Okay, the next item of business is to consider ordinance number 01538. Is that right, or did I skip one?
37.
37.
Oh, Kathy.
I will entertain a motion to suspend the rules and read by title. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor of the motion to suspend the rules, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, please say no. Council, would you please read the ordinance by title?
Ordinance 01537, ordinance approving C4 Regional Commercial Open Display District zoning on 13 acres at 1873 East Grand Avenue and amending the future land use plan map to designate the area linear commercial corridor and for other purposes. That concludes your reading. If you now entertain a motion second to adopt, and have discussion if you
Do I have a motion to adopt?
Move.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. And Would you please explain
Thank you,
to
Mayor.
us?
Kathy Selman, Planning and Development Director. The applicant is the property owner, and that is Carl Kaufman. He owns the property at 1873 East Grand. This property is split zone C4 Regional Commercial Open Display District, and that would be on the part that directly fronts East Grand. And behind that, on the same parcel, is R2 Suburban Residential. And the future land use map designations go along with those two existing zones. The property is currently vacant, but was used previously as a 9-hole golf course, Magic Hills. It's bounded by Knights Inn Motel to the west, single-family residential development to the north and east, and the Martin Luther King Jr. Expressway to the south. The surrounding zoning includes C4 Regional Commercial Open Display District south and west, R2 Suburban Residential to the north and east, and M1 Light Manufacturing to the southeast. Property owner states that his intended purpose for the rezoning is to eventually redevelop the property for commercial use and would like the property to be zoned in one zone district.
Okay.
Planning Commission duly advertised and held a hearing on September 17, 2015, to consider C4 Regional Commercial Open Display District zoning with linear commercial corridor future land use plan map designation. After calling for testimony, Planning Commission made a specific finding that the change demonstrates compatibility with surrounding development and zoning, that a significant change in the surrounding physical conditions is occurring, and that the requested rezoning is consistent with the goals and objectives of the zoning code and the future land use plan of the City of Hot Springs. Planning Commission voted 6-0 to accept the findings of the staff report and to recommend approval to the Board of Directors. So their recommendation is before you to zone the remainder of that parcel C4.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, and we don't have anyone signed up to speak to that, I do not think, at all. So, directors, do you have any questions, comments, or questions on this one? Hearing none, would you please call the roll?
Yes. Foley?
Aye.
Davidson?
Aye.
Jones?
Aye.
Clark?
Aye.
Williams?
Aye.
Ramick?
Aye.
Carney?
Aye, it is
Adopted.
adopted. The next item of business is to consider ordinance number 01538. First of all, I will entertain a motion to suspend the rules and read by title only. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
And a second.
Second.
All in favor of the motion to suspend the rules, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no. Council, would you please read the ordinance by title?
Ordinance 01538, an ordinance waiving the requirements of competitive bidding for the procurement of certain sole source police equipment, L3 body vision, body-worn cameras, approving sole source supplier TCS Ware, and for other purposes. That concludes your reading. If you not entertain a motion second to adopt and have discussion, if any.
Do I have a motion to adopt?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. And discussion. I'm so sorry y'all had to wait all that time. It's an ordinance. That's why you had to wait.
You
Sorry.
had you on body cam, though.
Jason Stacey, Assistant Police Chief. Good morning, Mayor, or good evening, Mayor.
It's been a
long day, hadn't it?
4 o'clock
Yeah.
this morning. It has been a long day.
It has been.
Chief Flory regrets he could not be here this evening. He's attending a meeting with the Attorney General as part of a advisory committee. At the consent agenda meeting last Tuesday, Chief Flory outlined a detailed description of the body-worn camera program and its implementation within our department for the next 3 years. This initial purchase, based upon your approval, will cover the cost of 38 body-worn cameras, in which priority will be given to officers actually working in the field first, and also a server upgrade to our existing computer infrastructure. Purchasing the body-worn cameras from TCS Ware will allow for the full integration of playback and data storage, which will be compatible with our current in-car cameras that we use in our 80 vehicles. As you know, there are many advantages of body-worn cameras, which include accountability, in transparency, and also a reduction of agency liability, and also obviously criminal prosecutions. So I would be glad to entertain any questions that anybody might have in reference to the body-worn cameras.
Is there a certificate of availability?
What?
Funding.
Pardon?
It's a good catch, though, Director Amick.
I'm not very smart, but I think a lot.
We're supposed to have something.
You're supposed to have a certificate of
Was
availability.
the motion contingent upon receiving the certificate of availability?
I think we do it over $100,000, don't we?
I have a question, Mayor. Is the motion contingent upon receiving an acceptable certificate of availability for the funds?
Mayor, in response to that question, if we could bring Doretha Yates up.
Doretha.
I think the certificate of availability may be only for purchases over $100,000.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Actually, Heather just showed me one that I had done. I don't know that it got into the packet. We did do a certificate of availability that is in the budget, and there are funds available.
Good.
Do you have a copy of that with you? Just wait.
That's all you
Okay.
need.
We'll provide copies,
You're
Director.
on top of it. Very good. Very good.
Thank you for being here. Okay. Any other
Impressed.
questions? You have questions? Any discussion? No further discussion. Would you please call the roll?
Yes. Davidson,
Aye.
Jones,
Aye.
Clark,
Aye.
Williams,
Aye.
Ramick,
Aye.
Foley,
Aye.
Carney.
Aye. It is adopted. Thank you.
Thank you, Jason.
Okay. Okay, that concludes the
Picking on you, Jason.
that concludes the business section of tonight's meeting. Did we have anybody sign up for that after?
No, ma'am.
Okay, good. Okay, are there any comments from our members, board members? Anything you need to say?
I would like to say something, and I'm sorry she's already gone, and I want to sort of echo what Director Foley said at our last board meeting. But when I went out and looked at Ms. Palmer's property, and then that very historic building that's at the backside of the second building beyond her property, which is the old Pennies, it has a hole in the roof. You know, you could see light through it. And, of course, the air conditioning unit, that was just a few inches from toppling. And so as soon as I got back to the office, I sent all of this to her, and they had the documents done, signed before the end of day.
We're talking
Took
about
care
Ms.
of it.
Selman.
Ms. Selman, yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. And tonight we have a special for our board comments. And would you please introduce our next comments?
Certainly, Mayor. I've asked Bob Wright, our financial advisor with Cruz and Associates, to come and address the board. As you know, we're wrapping up a couple of major projects at the Ouachita treatment plant in the latter part of this year with those two large basins. We can't really enjoy the benefits of that work without also performing the work that needs to be done on the filters so we can treat additional water during high turbidity, and this is whenever we actually have too much rain and that water starts backing up into the filter process. So we're going to have about $3.5 million of work that we're going to have to come to the board with. In speaking with Doretha at those numbers, and then again speaking with Bob Wright earlier, we discovered that we have quite a bit of monies out there that are bank qualified that would reduce the cost of borrowing that money in the long term. So I'll turn it over to Bob. Appreciate you coming down on such short notice, and you can explain why we're doing this this way as far as the timing.
Absolutely not. And Bob Wright, Cruz and Associates, I've been your financial advisor for a number of years, and I appreciate kind of a last minute adding on to the end of the agenda. As you recall, on the last couple of large financings we did, long drawn out process, multiple meetings, multiple sets of numbers, and it doesn't always move smoothly. We've been going through with Ms. Yates and staff some of your CIP meetings, capital improvement plan meetings, long-term, long-range planning. And part of those discussions, part of other discussions that we've had, obviously, you know, some of that comes up with your Lake DeGray, Lake Ouachita, some of those large capital projects that might be on the horizon. But it's an ongoing maintenance upkeep on your water and sewer system. hear Mr. Carnahan earlier mention some numbers, maybe from an article or letter from Mr. Burrow, but I pulled up a presentation that I had done because those numbers sounded familiar. In presentation I'd given to civil engineers in Arkansas about water and wastewater needs and projects, 300-something billion dollar needs that are, you turn on the faucet, you flush the toilet, everything works, and no one complains. But there's ongoing capital needs. So as I've continued to, be in touch with staff, what I handed out was, we knew that that there are some needs coming up for your existing treatment plant, possibly water tank, possibly water lines, as Mr. Carnahan had discussed. And with things moving fast in our end of the business, we weren't in any hurry with what we thought the Fed was going to do and hiking interest rates last month and not really needing to push any type of borrowing this year. With some of the delays in the rate chart I handed out to you showing that rates have really taken a nice dip here lately, the conversations that we've had was, and as Mr. Burrow said, bank qualified, if a city issues less than $10 million in par amount of debt in any one calendar year, you can deem those bonds or that financing bank qualified. That allows local banks to purchase those bonds for their portfolio. Well, a number of obviously the larger deals we have been doing, we haven't gone through that process. It's been well over $10 million. But since you've got a capacity of about $8.1 million still this year in 2015, you can save 20 to 25 basis points, a quarter percentage point on your borrowing cost. And if you did, let's say you did $8 million in financing and you closed it this year, that could save you a couple $100,000 in interest costs over the life of the issue. And that's real money when you start talking about that. So in our ongoing conversations and watching these interest rates drop, as Mr. Burrow said, yeah, it is last minute. I was up in Rector, Arkansas last night working on a transaction, and I just told him, while I'm out on this, this part of town, this part of the state, let me come on down, at least offer up, the opportunity to say, we know the needs are there. We know that at some point, whether it's in the next 3 months or the next 6 to 9 months, you're going to have to borrow some money for your improvements to your existing infrastructure. It makes sense from a number standpoint to try to take advantage of what the market has presented us, to try to take advantage of that bank qualified designation and save the citizens over time money on your borrowing cost. I know this is a quick, hey, we're dropping this on you, and do you want to try to move on something very quickly and actually get the bonds sold and closed by the end of the year? We'd have to move at pretty fast pace to get that done. But that's what we're here for, is at least to present to you opportunities to say the need's there. We can save you some money by doing it this way. We're not looking for any action tonight. We're not looking for any action in 2 weeks at your next director's meeting. But we probably, if you want to try to take advantage and hit this market, we would be coming back to you in November with some hard and fast numbers to try to get something done to save you some money. Because if you can do it now in the last quarter of the year instead of waiting until the first quarter or second quarter of next year, that's real savings to the city.
So what's the request for what amount?
We basically just needed some direction on whether we wanted to move forward before we started running the numbers and bringing this back to the board. If this sounds like something the board's interested in, my recommendation is that you bring down the entire $8 million. We know we're going to have these projects. We know we need at least $3.5 to $4 million for the filters. We know that we're going to be looking at building additional storage in our system with additional storage tanks. That may be $2.5 to $3 million as well as we look at that moving into next year. We can always pay this back as we do the larger issues, if that makes sense at that time. But with the timing being what it is, and we're able to save this money on this particular bond, I would recommend that we bring down the entire $8 million, because we know we're going to need that money throughout the process of our utility infrastructure improvements.
So we would issue the bonds for $8 million, and at that, when they're purchased, when they're bought, then we would just put that money in our account and use it as we need it in 2016?
Yeah, the city has to have what the legal term is, a reasonable expectation that you would spend, and let's call it's about $7.5 million in available proceeds that would come from the financing. You'd have to have reasonable expectations that you would spend that over a 3-year period. There are certain percentages over that 3 years, but that's the main goal. And in talking with Mr. Bro and staff, do you have more needs, current capital improvements than $7.5 million? You do.
Oh, yeah.
So that's just we weren't planning this end of the year here, but seeing the dip in the market, it's just an opportunity that we wanted to at least bring in front of you. And we've talked to bond counsel, the Friday firm. He said, yes, if we move fast, we can get this done. Probably pricing mid-November, before the holidays. Might come in right after Thanksgiving, whatever day that follows on, and then close the last week of December.
I think we should go ahead and move on it. Bring it up next board meeting.
I do too.
Okay.
Put a proposal together?
Yes, we'll bring that back to the board for your consideration, either at the next meeting or at the latest, the first meeting in November. Thank you.
That's correct. I appreciate your time, and we'll get some information to you and see how this plays out.
Thank you.
Thank you for the cookies.
Yes,
Notice
thank
that
you.
the name on there is Nathan Rutledge and not mine. I grabbed the wrong box, obviously. So I do have my own box with my own name, but I thought you might need a little sugar kick to
Yeah.
get through the meeting.
Yeah, Nathan.
Thank you.
Okay.
Appreciate that.
Thank
Okay,
Nathan.
hearing no further, do we have any further discussion? I hope not.
Well, I'd just like to, for everyone to take note of the new paving on Higdon Ferry. It is, you won't break an axle going down there now, so it's much smoother, so I appreciate that.
Okay. I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
I so moved.
Yeah.
Second.
Do I have a second?
Second.
And all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned.